well. So in a buyer-centric world, in a world where people do so much research online before they ever get to you, what can we do to make sure that we're only working with good fit clients? How many of you right now, if you looked at your client list really critically, would find a few clients that probably should be ex-clients? How many of you have clients that you're losing money on? How many of you have clients where they torture your NOC and support staff to the point where people dread picking up the phone when there's a call? It's incumbent on us that we take the efforts to build the client list with the right kind of people that we want to have on our client roster. So how do we attract the right strangers? There's a couple different levels, a couple different layers with this. How many of you ever heard of the term the Hippo? Highest paid person's opinion or highest paid person in the organization tends to be like your CEO. And a lot of times they're certain that they know exactly what to do because they come to you and say, you know what? I know you're telling me that LinkedIn is important or YouTube might be important, but my 14-year-old daughter, she's really into WhatsApp and Snapchat. We got to be really big on WhatsApp and Snapchat because that's where people are buying colocation. You're like, are you serious? Is our colocation buyer a 14-year-old? So it's really, really important to not allow your CEO's ego and your CEO's whim to get past the need to look and validate all this with data. So just chasing after fans, followers, likes, retweets, subscribers, it's got to focus on inputs that are going to get you the right kind of sales opportunities and get the right kinds of clients. So the Hippo tends to care about those kinds of things. The digital marketer cares a lot about branding. They care a lot about design. They care a lot about engagement. They love media mentions when they can get their CEO quoted in the business section of their local newspaper, on a prominent blog, or on a local talk radio show. They absolutely love that. They eat that up. And they love they love to pursue analyst opinions to get them into all these analyst reports that give them third-party proof and validation. The revenue-focused CEO, on the other hand, they care about things that hit the bottom line. They care about tracking visitors. They care about tracking conversion rates. They care about tracking deal stages, average client lifetime value, what they can afford to invest in acquiring a client, and product market fit. Those in the back, can you still hear me okay? Cool. So when it comes to attracting the right strangers, how do we make sure that we don't inadvertently get a whole bunch of bad fit people hanging out in our sales funnel? How do we attract the right influencers and decision makers in the right places at the right time, and most of all in the right context? And I've said in the right context a couple times, this is extra critical to helping you find the right niches and avoid being perceived as a commodity provider. How many of you like to be called a vendor? How many of you like to bid? How many of you wake up in the morning and say, gee, wouldn't it be awesome if I had a whole bunch of RFPs, RFQs that were clogging my inbox where we're going to invest dozens or hundreds of hours and get absolutely nowhere? How many of you like to be brought in for a pitch, for the invitation to propose something? How many of you spend time or have people on your sales time begging for 15 minutes on the calendar of influencers and decision makers, begging for meetings? When you don't have leverage, when you're not perceived as a thought leader, when you're not perceived as a subject matter expert, this is what happens, is you're thrown into the vendor box. And it's a pretty lousy place to be because you don't have leverage. You can't charge prices that are in line with your value. All you end up largely attracting is price-sensitive buyers who only care about you being the cheapest. They don't care about what corners they have to cut, they just want the cheapest price. The flip side is when you're treated more like a partner, when instead of having sales engagements, you start out with consulting, diagnostic, exploratory engagements. You're paid to do a report to actually make recommendations about what they should do, as opposed to it just being a response to an RFP and a pitch. And most of all, prospects come to you and they ask for time on your calendar as opposed to the other way around. In the time I've been at Data Center World, 3 or 4 people have booked time on my calendar because of things that they've seen on our website or talks and everything like that. It is a complete game changer for the morale of your sales team and your executive team when you're positioned well enough that your blogs and your ebooks and your white papers and all these different events, people are reading them, consuming them, and saying, yeah, I got to talk to them. Let me book some time on their calendar. It's seen more as like a doctor-patient relationship as opposed to just being a technology provider or just being an IT vendor or colocation vendor.